Ruins Death Binder board game co-op tutorial. So we're gonna set up the game. So we've already prepared our piles of cards, so basically decks of enemies, bosses, blinded, special action skills, events. If you know how to do that, please check out this setup for solo. It has the standard setting that will basically be used for co-op and for single player. Okay, so this is a single player double layer player board. At the other side you will find co-op turn order schematics, which is important, and we have our draw deck shuffled already. So let's open our manual on page 22. We have some kind of visual setup on the right side, so it might be easier for us to kind of get around what we need. So I'm just going to put it aside for now. So we're going to take player 1 trait upgrades board, it says it here, put it on the left side, and another one, player 2 trait upgrades. They form one bigger board. They should have arrows here, and now we start from setting this whole thing up. So we start with taking additional transparent cubes. We take additional white cubes. We take out enemy behavior cards, right? And we now put token on the top. We take out attacks player 1, attacks player 2 tokens. We can put them here for now. And we have the leader token. So we start by adding the cubes. So we start by putting all of the white cubes on the starting position. So start basically on top of the player board. Okay. Okay, great. So we are done here. Now we put 4 transparent cubes depending on our trait upgrades here. So our defense, starting defense is 2 for the player 1. For the player 2 it will be 1. You can spot the difference in colors. This is to kind of mimic the way of play for each side. So one focus on melee and can upgrade melee tier, while the blue one plays as spellcrafter and can upgrade spell tier to higher level. The one on the left cannot upgrade the spell tier higher than first, and the other one cannot upgrade melee tier higher than 1. Okay, so starting defense 1, starting defense 2, health 4, health 6. Of course, it will be better to have 2 players do this, but you know. So we put the cube at the starting position here. We don't put any cube on the right side because the cube on the blind track will travel throughout the both. Now we have separate experience tracks, 1 and 2. Okay, and now we can put that away, and the other thing to do is to take our action cards. And what do we do with those? So I'm gonna put that up so I can show you. So generally speaking, you can create two draw decks by putting one card after another till it's zeroed. Or I think if you're a good shuffler, when you shuffle the deck, you can always split it in half. Check if the height is good. I think it's good because it's actually evened out. Now we put the draw deck 1 and draw deck 2 here. And we basically are finished with this kind of setup here. There's not much to do other than that. So player 1 will play on this side, while player 2 will play on this side. So both start with 6 cards. Oops. Sorry, no space. So I'm gonna put it here for now because I have boxes on the left. Okay, so we have this part ready. So what do we do next? We figure out who is the leader for this turn. So the rulebook states that it can be the oldest one. Just for the sake of it, as I play alone, I'm going to go with myself as player 1. So I am the leader, so I am able to choose, make decisions for the whole party, so to say. And I'm going to go and, for example, let's go here and let's do an event. So this event applies to me. So I take out the card. It's discovery. I get 2 defense or increase spell vulnerability, or we both get blight. So I decide to get blight instead and not do much more else. Now I can go and pass on the token to my and now I pass the token to the other person. So we've managed to resolve this one, so we get additional blight. So the player 2 now has the crown, so he's able to make decisions for us going forward. So now we've given the token to the other player. We've added our oops, sorry, I moved the wrong tracker. Our blight, and let's say we have enemies here. So second player decides, the leading player decides to go here, and now we are having an encounter. So let's move that a little bit. So we draw 2 enemies, 1 enemies, 1 and 2. And when we first see them, we draw same amount of enemy behaviors. So we're going to go 1 and 2, put the rest back. We have enemy behavior, brutal. So we put that above him or below, but I suggest above. And we have aggressive. So that means that we check the values each turn if they change, we can also kind of inflict changes on them. So for example, this one will attack the one that has lowest defense. We are not talking about the overall stats, but the current defense. So, for example, if we had been having ones, who would we choose? But we'll resolve that soon. So, the defense, the lowest defense, has the player marked as blue, so player 2. So this one attacks in the nearest round, player 2. This one attacks the one that has higher melee ability, melee trait ability, which is this one. So we're going to put this here. Okay? Now we each take turns. So the leading player starts. He is able to attack with 2 cards. So he's gonna go and do Whirlwind, and both has been damaged. And he's gonna use this card too on this one. So dealing 2 damage, a total of 3. And now I am able to store 1, so player 2 stores 1 card and removes second one. As you can see, they share same removed action deck. Okay? Now it's my turn, and I decide to finish off and defeat the other one. So I'm going to go and use this one. So for damage, they roll for raise. He survived, so he's still in the game. So I'm going to go and use maybe this card, but I'm not going to use the ability. Or actually, yes, I'm going to use the ability so I can draw maximum of 3 blinded cards to deal the same amount of damage. So I'm going to take 1, add it to my stored cards. I'm going to store this one too, remove that one. Adding this doesn't mean it's taking out from your max stored cards. By this I mean blinded card. Okay, so I'm done. The other player is done. Now, enemy turn. My enemy's turn. Now it is enemy turn. So we know that nothing changed in the behavior. So we defeated this one. And the last one that did the damage, so the killing blow, gets the experience points. So player 1 receives 2 experience points. Okay? And we put that back, this aside, and now enemy turn. So the raised bobber attacks player 2 and removes 1 and 2 points of health. Okay? Now we fill our hands to 6 on both. Player 2 starts again. Deals damage. he will use this card, 2 damage, which equals to 4. So 2 times 2 for vulnerability. So he has 5 damage, which is basically him being defeated, but rolling for his raise ability. He failed, he has been defeated. And that's put away. This second character player receives 2 points of experience. Okay? So, what could have changed in the dynamic here? So, for example, on the second round, I don't even remember all of the cards now, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to put them here and those here. So that was the initial way of them attacking both players, but what could have happened is that for some kind of weird reason this enemy has dealt damage to me, or no, this enemy dealt damage to me, this was defeated, and then he would change in the next turn, so he is defeated. Let's take him out of the zone. He is defeated, and now this enemy, instead of player 2, would target me, because in his turn he checks for all of the values above. So who has the lowest, sorry, one more. Who has the lowest defense? We both have the same defense. But who has the lowest HP? It is player red, the first player. We have 4, and he initially had 6 or 5 later on. So he would have attacked the player 1. Even going further, what would happen if our health would be the same? So we would go through the first check. Okay, we have the same defense. Second check, for example, we have the same health. What then? We check the third one. Who has higher experience? Well, lower experience. Both have the same, or none. That's still the same, right? Then the player that will be attacked is the one that is the leader at the end. There are different ones, and the leader will always get the worst if all of the other stats won't be met. The other checks, I mean. Okay? So that's for the combat and all of that. You cannot switch with any cards, you cannot trade experience points, buy yourself stuff and all of that. You have your own boards, you have accumulative removed action cards section, so you draw removed cards from the same one, and you go together through the tunnels, dungeon and all of that, and that's generally how you play this. As I said previously, the experience points is only granted to the one that has dealt the killing blow, or the one that has been in a leader while taking an event card. So what happens later on? For example, if we have 2, well, or maybe 3, right? So we would go to advantage token, which has 3 symbols on them. So this player would start in rest which wouldn't really do him much. Then on the second one, he would have given it to the player 1, but the event would be transferred back to player 2. And upon the player 2 doing the last adventure token, he is the one that can decide to go on a side quest or to not go on a side quest. So what are the losing conditions of this game mode? So basically, when player's health reaches 0, for example, player 1 has been defeated by Swordbearer. His health is 0. That means that he has been downed. He isn't fully out of the game yet, he has been downed. A downed player removes 2 cards from their draw deck once he is defeated. So he, for example, I have 1 health, player 1 has 1 health, raises Swordbearer, attacks player 1, he loses his last point. Besides being in down state, he removes 2 cards from his draw deck for each status of being downed. He removes it. Okay. And when player 2 would be fighting against this raised Swordbearer and has defeated it, he would have managed to get the player 1 up, and he would restore 2 health for that. But also, if I had a side quest and was downed, I would have to lose the side quest from my character. So if both are downed, that means that the whole party is defeated, or if one of the players runs out of the cards, meaning he cannot gather full hand on his character, it's automatic game over. So what happens if you have 2 enemies? For example, this one and this one. You have 2 enemies. One attacks player 2, another one attacks player 1. I have 4 health, but I have been defeated in the process. Player 2 is still alive. They have their own behaviors. Those would have been put aside, and both would attack player 2 in their nearest turn. So if this one and this one attacked player 1, but I was defeated by the first one, that would have meant that this one failed his action, this one changed his target to the only available target, and would commence fighting the player 2. Later on, this would either switch to player 2, or both can be removed to have a cleaner table, and because there is only one way out of it. So, retreating from the game while we have co-op. So we have, for example, 2 enemies. And what happens? How do we retreat from the game? They both need to make that decision, but at the end it is up to the leading player, the leader, to decide whether we run or not run. Both would need to pay the cost, so 1 plus 2 equals 3 cards to be removed from both players. So each player needs to pay 3 cards. So player 2 pays 3 cards and player 1 removes 3 cards. Then they can run. So how to run when you have 2 players but only one is able to afford it? Well, either that player is have to die, be downed, but then he loses 2 cards, so that's unfortunate, or he still tries to fight the enemies till the very end, in the last hope of kind of gaining some ground for the other player, so that he can later on somehow be redeemed. Yeah. Same rule with targeting comes for the bosses, but some attacks, like for Kolmud and Varmas, like this one, double hit, means that would hit both players, or attacks each player once in co-op. So those are the, I think, rules that have to be known to play this game. There are some more kinks to smaller to the cards, text on the cards and all of that, but I believe that more or less they should be known and easily resolved. Thank you for watching. See you next time.